And so we return to the dancing, to the rhythm, to the fever. Once again, we're tackling 2 chapters, and this time around it's chapter 5 and 6. Yes, this game does in fact have quite a few chapters. Now, as usual, this review series is styled as an incremental spoiler talk with extended conversations on presentation, gameplay, and plot elements. Given we've reached chapter 5 and 6 in this groovy journey, expect spoilers for chapter 6 and all that came before it. Let's get it out of the way. This is your gate into Spoilerland. Leave if you must. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yet again, I find myself explaining the 2-chapter episode approach. Other than liking the general pacing shown by the last part, these 2 chapters establish the follow-up to the 3-branch story established in chapter 2, 3, and 4. The Midnight Stage stories merge and create a 2-front story that makes up our calm before the storm. The world rumbled under feet for all those struggling together within the depths of the Midnight Stage, and the 2 groups from the investigation team bolted towards it. Before them, however, is the mysterious pillar the entire game seems to revolve around, Miss Ochimizu. Coming together again as they locate a new area, the investigation team quickly deduces that the region was spurred into existence recently, with the rumble as the indicator. However, to their dismay, Miss Ochimizu was there to resist their efforts, offering herself up as an option for the voice to bond with, so she didn't have to gamble on the success of the investigation team. She moved forward despite the pleas of the investigation team. With Miss Ochimizu's immediate suspicion, her actions do cause some reason for concern. While not betting the house on people she doesn't know well is a fair assessment of the situation, her general willingness to dive in headfirst only fuels the concerning flames brought up in Chapter 4's finale. Regardless, she goes in willingly to the voice's embrace and transforms into a dominatrix-styled shadow, only to be evolved even further into a mass puppeteer to represent the ever-growing and changing public presence she has taken on in her work for the idols like Kahneman Kitchen. Now, of course, Yu steps up and quickly puts an end to this. The group had followed her without her consent, determined to bring back everyone safely. Throughout this entire process, some new information comes out from the investigation team and Miss Ochimizu herself. First of all, a few more dots are connected on the coma patients and why only some people investigating the LMB website at midnight end up with the lethargy syndrome.
The victims were all people who wished to enter this world.
Whoa! Are you serious? What are you saying now, Dokun? There's no way anyone would want that for themselves.
Only those who want this bond can enter. Whether they truly understand it or not, the shadows are those who had an outward or subconscious desire to join in on the blinding bond and became vulnerable from it. The second major revelation is the background of one Miss Ochimizu. A long time ago, there was an idol named Yuko Asada that was adequate at best, but she took the stage with a purpose to encourage and bring a new hope to those who listened to her music and saw her dancing. Who was her manager? One Miss Ochimizu. They worked hard together and rose through the idol business at a rapid rate. But one day Yuko realized her words had begun to ring hollow. Her passion and goals were lost to her. She and Miss Ochimizu admitted defeat, losing themselves to the notion that one can never truly share their feelings through music. And the defeated Yuko committed suicide. And Miss Ochimizu only ever blamed herself. Through the dances of the investigation team reaching her, Ochimizu turns a new leaf and begins to see Yuko's desires as possible once again. The backstory between them is sad, yet sort of cheesy and a lot really of what you'd expect out of the narrative after playing it for hours and seeing what the narrative was aiming for.
How many years did I waste, groveling alone and taking out my pain on all those around me? I thought if people were going to hate me, I'd give them what they wanted. I was the worst, most despicable person I could be. I even went around claiming responsibility for the lyrics Yuko changed.
And it really plays on one of the greatest strengths the Persona 4 narrative ever had, tone contrast. But as Miss Ochimizu reaches her new conclusion, the world persists. The eerie song, which is actually Yuko's final unreleased song playing backwards, still rings through the realm. The mysterious voice still raves over its hollow concept of bonds. Miss Ochimizu is not controlling this world, nor could her shadow. So what is? With Ochimizu filled with resolve and trust beyond any she had ever expected, a new door appears to offer passage to deeper within the realm itself, and to the answers of the mysteries still held within. Chapter 5 is a turning point. After all the mystery and tidbits had been fed to the audience, the game finally seems willing to start showing its hand. Albeit it's one card at a time, but showing a face card is no mean feat. The major players in the backstory seem on table. And the questions that largely remain are what forces are truly rigging the game from behind the scenes. Between the two chapters, the gameplay begins to feel like it's entering endgame mode. While both chapters start around the same level, each begins to ramp up the expectations for rhythm's complex combinations, and it does so without introducing any real new elements to the gameplay in particular. The songs themselves even begin to feel as though the final stretch is on the line, with opening themes from the various Persona games starting to show up and give an extra sense, signaling the beginning of the end. Now, Chapter 6 tackles the concurrent plot of the real world to Chapter 3's shenanigans. Dojima had recently worked out some major connecting point in the case, and Nanako had been pulled into the idol world herself. With the LMB Fest drawing near, no one in sight, and the press release Nanako already took part in being a big hit, the festival organizers asked Dojima to let Nanako go up on stage with Konami for a replacement performance. Much like Chapter 4, Nanako doesn't really do much. It's interesting to see how she starts calling Konami Big Sis for really no particular reason, in contrast to her calling you Big Bro after being suggested to do it in some subconscious way, but her role still feels more akin to a plot device as her story moves on.
Yay! I get to be on stage with Nanako-san! I'm getting so hyped! Yay! Me too!
On the other hand, Dojima's still hard at work tracking down leads and new information on the case. After Konami and him push the agency to go to the police with the missing people report, Dojima tracks down more about one of the issues surrounding the case and tying Miss Ochimizu to it all: Yuko's suicide. Now, Dojima is quick to note his checks on Ochimizu's history showed she was clean. She had nothing suggesting she had any movement signaling an intent to commit a crime. However, there's another aspect of that suicide that needed to be tracked down: a witness. At the same time, Konami has to focus on the LMB Fest. Time has passed quickly and the event is upon everyone involved. Last-minute practice gets underway and Konami's occasional headaches are getting worse and far more prevalent to what is happening. She even collapses from pain during a practice. Weird instances of memories she shouldn't know are coming up, and everyone seems confused, particularly Konami, as she starts to break down in her confidence and connections to others.
Big sis?
Konami, are you alright? Konami-chan. Come on, snap out of it!
Are you okay, big sis?
Don't shake her, lay her on her back.
Throughout all of this, Konami's voice actress does a pretty decent job. There's a lot that can be asked of someone playing a major role in a story with such contrasting tones. She does bubbly idol very well, and the forgetful klutz is certainly something Konami pulls off extremely well, and this sort of energy does end up sneaking into her other emotional moments like calm moments or just terror, to a point that some lines actually do feel off when she gets in those different tones. She does good work, all things considered, but it's not the best voice acting you've heard from the series yet.
Huh? My diary? When did I take that out?
Now, for the most part, the returning voice actors hold strong in their roles. Nanako's admittedly perplexing treatment during the game leads her to tend to not get much of a chance for the voice actor to show her range and character, at least so far, but Dojima and the returning investigation team voices are all on point and have clearly gotten well acclimated to their roles.
Tell us, Nana-chan, did you get any sleep last night?
Mm-hmm. Dad wasn't there snoring in the next room, so I slept great.
Now, all this voice acting stuff does become a bit noticeable in the ending of Chapter 6. Konami and Nanako, dressed the same, take the stage as the LMB Fest gets to its climactic moments with headliners and more. After some funny back and forth, the show hosts, they dance to their tune and the audience loves it. But Konami starts getting a new idea in her head. Nanako, her idol group, the audience. She has bonds with none of them, she's alone. And who better to prey on such thoughts than the eerie voice herself? Speaking to her in the real world, she pushes Konami to a breaking point where she runs off stage. In her dressing room, she gets a call from Dojima with dire revelations. The witness to Yuko's suicide was a young child, someone who looked up to Yuko and was at the studio to audition to be an idol like the role model Yuko was. There was also a specific item missing from Yuko's belongings, a diary that was locked with a combination linked to Yuko and Ochimizu. The diary in Konami's possession, and a history Konami had no memory of.
The witness was... It was me.
You finally figured it out.
What was that?
What the?
What's going on?
Let me through!
What?
Hey, what's wrong? She's gone?
What?
Where'd she go? Hey, I can't see.
Damn it. What the hell?